Kansas Highway Patrol is being ordered to pay more than $2 million regarding the Kansas two-step case.
New at 6, 12 News reporter Brock Wilson has a breakdown of the case and what this means if you've been a victim of the two-step.
Yeah, Mike, Rachel, the ACLU and Spencer law firm sued the KHP back in 2019, challenging the constitutionality of the Kansas two-step, the practice of a trooper walking away from a traffic stop, hoping to come up with a reason to search someone's vehicle, then returning. Now, you may remember back in November, a permanent injunction was placed on the two-step. Now, the Highway Patrol is being forced to pay the ACLU for legal costs and other fees. Calls the most recent ruling a big win for the rights of not only Kansans, but everyone that drives through the state.
I think this award that happened on Friday really vindicates our clients' positions that these stops and this sort of practice that the KHP has engaged in for years is unlawful.
ACLU of Kansas staff attorney Quan Yu Chang says a U.S. district judge ordered the Kansas Highway Patrol to pay them $2.3 million for attorney fees and court costs from challenging the two-step. That's separate from previous payouts to individuals the ACLU has represented in cases against the Highway Patrol.
One of those clients received an award of $1 in nominal damages. Our second client received $20,000 in compensatory damages and approximately another $20,000 in punitive damages.
So where will all that money come from? I reached out to the Highway Patrol for comment and never received a response. The ACLU says the Highway Patrol could be on the hook for even more money in the future if it continues practicing the two-step and more people take them to court.
We would hope that after 3 separate trial verdicts against them, that the KHP would understand that continuing to engage in such behavior is improper.
Financial compensation, the court placed the KHP under court supervision for up to 2 years. The Highway Patrol is still appealing the ruling on the two-step, which means troopers can still practice it, but they could also face more civil suits in the future.